Stellar Blade is an action RPG set in a futuristic world, and it's all about fast-paced combat and exploring beautifully designed environments. The visuals are absolutely stunning, and the combat feels smooth and satisfying, especially with all the cool moves and combos you can pull off. I really enjoyed the boss fights, which were challenging but not unfair, and they kept me on my toes. However, the story felt a bit shallow, and I didn't connect much with the characters, which was a little disappointing. Still, if you love action games with great visuals and fluid combat, it's definitely worth checking out. It's one of those games that's just fun to play, even if the story isn't the strongest. Dead Island 2 is a hilarious, gore-filled sequel that doesn't take itself seriously, and that's part of its charm. Set in a stunningly detailed and absurd version of LA, the game boasts ridiculously good graphics that make its blood-soaked melee combat and apocalyptic setting pop. You'll hack, slash, and drop kick your way through zombie hordes as one of 6 playable characters. The story feels like a cheesy B-movie with sarcastic writing, colorful characters, and over-the-top quests, like slaying zombies for a clout-chasing influencer or fighting bee-infested undead. While combat starts strong with modded melee weapons and superhuman abilities, its repetitive nature and lackluster guns fall short. Multiplayer adds much-needed fun, though technical bugs and an unpolished feel detract from the experience. Dead Island 2 may not reinvent the zombie genre, but its humor, irreverent tone, gorgeous visuals, and co-op chaos make it worth a bloody good time. Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth is a turn-based RPG that tells an emotional story filled with humor, and it does an amazing job of balancing serious moments with laugh-out-loud comedy. The story is really engaging, and the characters are so charming and relatable that you get invested in their journey. The combat system is strategic and fun, although the pacing can slow down a bit in longer battles. But there's so much to do with all the side quests and minigames that the world feels really alive and exciting to explore. It's definitely a must-play if you're into story-rich RPGs.
Let's get this over with.
Unicorn Overlord is a tactical RPG set in a beautiful fantasy world where you lead armies and make story choices that shape the world around you.
Be safe.
I loved the art style and the strategic combat that lets you experiment with different unit types. The story is engaging, and the characters are pretty memorable, which kept me invested in what would happen next. I did feel like the pacing was slow at times, but the rich story and strategic gameplay made up for it. It's definitely worth playing if you enjoy tactical games with deep storytelling. Pentiment throws you into 16th century Bavaria as Andreas Mahler, an artist who finds himself caught up in a murder mystery. You'll explore a beautifully illustrated world, talk to interesting characters, and try to uncover the truth behind a series of suspicious deaths. The game's unique art style, inspired by medieval manuscripts and woodcuts, adds to the immersive experience, and the story is full of twists and turns. Pentiment lets you shape your own story through your choices and interactions. You decide who to trust, what questions to ask, and ultimately who you think is responsible. But be warned, your decisions have real consequences that can affect the lives of everyone in the village. Although Pentiment is a slow-paced game focused on dialogue and investigation, it's still a really engaging experience. If you enjoy historical mysteries or narrative-driven games and are looking for something different, Pentiment is worth checking out. Sakuna of Rice and Ruin is a unique blend of action platforming and rice farming simulation that will surprise you with its depth and charm. You play as Sakuna, a spoiled harvest goddess banished to a dangerous island with a group of human outcasts. To survive and return home, you'll need to master the art of combat using your divine raiment to grapple and attack enemies, while also learning to cultivate rice. The game features a surprisingly deep and satisfying farming system where you'll plant, harvest, and refine your rice crops to improve your stats and abilities. The combat is fast-paced and acrobatic with a variety of weapons and skills to master as you explore the beautiful hand-drawn environments and uncover the secrets of the island. This is a truly special game that offers a unique and rewarding experience. Astrobot is a 3D platformer that feels like a love letter to classic games, with tight controls, beautiful environments, and some really fun mechanics. Every level introduces something new, whether it's a cool power-up or a clever platforming challenge. The way the game uses haptic feedback makes it feel super interactive, and honestly, it's one of the best platforming experiences on PlayStation. The only downside is that it's not the longest game out there, but every moment of it is packed with fun. If you love games that are just pure joy to play, this one is for you. Rogue Legacy 2 takes everything you loved about the original and makes it even better with a huge, vibrant world to explore and tons of new features. You'll play as a descendant of a noble family, exploring a procedurally generated castle filled with unique biomes like the enchanted Kerguelen Plateau and the challenging Axis Mundi. Each heir has their own unique traits and abilities, making every run feel fresh and exciting. The combat is fast and fluid with a wide variety of weapons and spells to master. You'll need to be on your toes to survive the challenging platforming sections and intense boss battles. And with the new Relics system, you can gain powerful abilities that can change the way you play. Rogue Legacy 2 is a must-play for fans of roguelites and platformers alike, offering a rewarding and addictive experience that will keep you coming back for more. So I tried Nine Sols recently and was really impressed by how well it combines fast-paced action and platforming with a story inspired by Asian mythology. I absolutely loved the hand-drawn art style that gives the game a really unique look. The combat is so much fun with the mix of swordplay and deflection mechanics that make every fight feel intense, but I did find some of the platforming parts to be a bit tricky because they require really precise jumps. The story is good, but it does feel like it drags in some places, but even with these small issues, I think it's a really solid game that's worth checking out if you like action platformers.
Ashley, run!
Resident Evil 4 Remake takes the survival horror masterpiece and elevates it to a whole new level with stunning visuals and modernized gameplay. Step back into the shoes of Leon S. Kennedy as he faces hordes of Ganados in a truly terrifying and immersive experience. The environments are incredibly detailed and atmospheric, from the eerie village to the imposing castle and the terrifying island.
One down.
The combat is intense and visceral with brutal melee attacks and satisfying gunplay that will keep you on your toes. You'll need to use every weapon in your arsenal and strategically manage your resources to survive the onslaught of enemies. The remake also introduces new features like side quests and expanded areas, giving you even more to explore and discover. This game is a thrilling and terrifying adventure that perfectly captures the spirit of the original while delivering a fresh and unforgettable experience. Death Stranding is a really unique game, and I gotta say it was quite the experience. Some people might call it a walking simulator, and yeah, you do spend a lot of time trekking across this crazy landscape, but it's not just about that. You're like this delivery guy in a post-apocalyptic world where everything is super weird and you have to connect these isolated cities. It's kind of slow-paced, but it's also really beautiful and atmospheric with some crazy creatures and this really cool story about connections and stuff. The gameplay can be a bit repetitive, I guess, like you're always balancing your cargo and trying not to fall over, which can get a little old. But honestly, I kind of found it relaxing in a weird way, and the story kept me hooked. Plus, the online thing, where you can see other players' structures and stuff, is really cool. It's definitely not going to be for everyone, but if you're looking for something different and you don't mind a bit of a slower pace, Death Stranding might surprise you.
Onward and upward!
Super Mario Bros. Wonders is like a crazy dream where anything can happen because you can turn into an elephant and stomp on Goombas or become a giant spiky ball and roll through the levels. And there are even bubbles that can float you through the sky, and you can play as all your favorite characters like Mario, Peach, and Toad, and even Daisy. The levels are super fun and colorful with tons of secrets to find, and the music is so catchy, you'll be humming it all day long. Plus, there are these things called wonder flowers that can totally change the game, like making the pipes come alive or turning all the enemies into giant versions of themselves. So get ready for a wild ride because this is a super fun game that will keep you entertained for hours. If you're enjoying the video and want to support a growing channel, then please do subscribe and hit the bell icon. Half-Life Alyx is a groundbreaking VR game that completely immerses you in the world of City 17. You play as Alyx Vance and use your hands to interact with the environment, solve puzzles, and fight off terrifying enemies like headcrabs and combine soldiers. The graphics are amazing and the world feels so real you'll forget you're in a game. The gameplay is super innovative with realistic physics that let you throw objects, manipulate tools, and even rummage through shelves for supplies. The combat is intense and satisfying, whether you're using your trusty gravity gloves to catch grenades or blasting away enemies with a shotgun. Half-Life Alyx is an absolute must-play for any fan of the series or anyone looking for a truly immersive VR experience. I recently tried Empire of the Ants, which is a strategy game about managing an ant colony, gathering resources, expanding tunnels, and defending against threats. I loved the attention to detail, from the way the ants move to the realistic environments that make you feel like you're actually in their tiny world. The strategy elements are pretty deep, letting you plan out your colony's growth and defense, but I did find the controls a bit tricky at times, which could be a little frustrating. Even so, it's such a unique and immersive experience. If you're looking for a different kind of strategy game, this one's definitely worth a shot.
Time to wake up, Nightingale.
Withering Rooms is a horror adventure game where you explore a creepy mansion filled with terrifying creatures and tricky puzzles. And what I found really interesting was how the game keeps changing its environment, making each area feel new and unsettling. And the sound design is really good at building tension. But the controls can be frustrating at times, especially when you're trying to get away from enemies. And the story is a bit hard to follow. But even with its flaws, the game does a great job at creating a spooky atmosphere. So if you love horror games, you might want to check this one out. Microsoft Flight Simulator is a truly stunning game that lets you fly anywhere in the world with incredibly realistic graphics and weather effects, so you can experience what it's really like to be a pilot and soar through the skies. The game has a huge variety of planes to choose from, and you can even fly real-world routes and visit famous landmarks, which adds to the immersion and makes you feel like you're actually there. However, the game can be quite demanding on your computer, and you'll need a pretty powerful machine to run it smoothly. Plus, the sheer amount of detail can sometimes be overwhelming, especially if you're new to flight simulators. Overall, though, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 is an amazing experience that any aviation enthusiast or gamer should definitely check out because it offers a level of realism and immersion that is unmatched by any other flight simulator currently available. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is a side-scrolling action platformer that brings back the classic feel of the old games but with a fresh, modern look. It mixes fast-paced combat with clever puzzles and platforming challenges, making each level feel really exciting. I was really impressed by how smooth the movement feels, especially when chaining jumps and wall runs together. The boss fights are fun and require some strategy, but some of them felt a bit too easy. The art style is beautiful, with vibrant colors that make the world feel alive. Even though some of the puzzles were a little repetitive, the combat and platforming kept me hooked. Neon White is a fast-paced action game where you play as an assassin trying to earn your place in heaven by competing with other demon slayers to kill demons, and you get to use cool weapons called soul cards to do it. The game has a really unique art style that mixes anime and cell shading, and it looks awesome. Plus, the levels are designed to be replayed over and over again, so you can try to get the best time. The story is pretty interesting and keeps you engaged, and the characters are all memorable with their own unique personalities, but the dialogue can be a bit cheesy at times. Overall, Neon White is a super fun and addictive game that's easy to pick up but hard to master because it requires quick reflexes and strategic thinking to succeed. So if you're looking for a challenge, this is definitely the game for you.
So good to see you again. You lost consciousness after awakening to your power.
Persona 3 Reload is a remake of the classic JRPG that mixes dungeon crawling with social simulation, where you fight shadows at night and build friendships by day. The graphics look fantastic, and the combat feels much more polished with smoother mechanics and updated visuals. I loved how they stayed true to the emotional story and complex characters that made the original so memorable. But I did miss some of the extra content from previous versions, which was a little disappointing. Still, the mix of strategic combat and storytelling is so good that it's hard to put down. It's definitely worth playing if you love story-driven RPGs. Little Nightmares 2 is a creepy puzzle platformer where you play as Mono exploring a distorted world filled with disturbing creatures. Solve puzzles and sneak past enemies to survive this nightmare world with its tense atmosphere and amazing sound design. You'll encounter terrifying monsters like the creepy teacher and the horrifying hunter. Team up with 6 from the first game to overcome obstacles and solve puzzles together. Though challenging at times, Little Nightmares 2 is a thrilling and unforgettable experience. A must-play for fans of horror games and anyone who enjoys a good scare.